I didn't feel, I felt a little apprehensive about going to church at first. These people made me feel comfortable, which is something I had never felt, before in a church. And so this whole time, I was just feeling all these questions and things were going through my mind about what I was doing and, why was I going to church and things like that. And so the third Sunday, I went back, and this whole time I kind of had almost like a double motive. It was like I wanted to go to church with this girl because I was trying to impress her, because I was trying to go out with her at the time. But at the same time, I was interested in what the pastor had to say, and I was curious as to why everything he spoke about seemed to pertain to my life. And I just wanted wanted more of that experience. And so on the third Sunday, there was another really rousing message. I couldn't tell you exactly what the pastor was preaching on, but I just knew that God, just seemed to be speaking to me directly. And so at the end of that service, they had an altar call, and during that altar call, several people went up to the front of the church and were on their knees, and people were crying. There was snot running down to everybody's house, and I'm sitting there going, Pastor kept asking if anybody else wanted to come forward and give their life to God, and give their life to Jesus, and I was like, well, half of me was saying, yeah, let's go, and then another half of me was like, hey, you don't know these people, you don't want to, get up in front of everybody. Everybody's going to, just be staring at you, and but there's this other, voice in my head. It seemed like that was just saying, go ahead, Mike, this is what you need to do. Everything's going to be all right. Just come up to the front of the church, and everything will be fine. So I listened to that voice, and I made my way up to the front of the church and got on my knees, and next thing you know, I was bawling, and snot was running out of my nose, and I told God that I was going to turn my life over to Him, and that I trusted Him, and that I just wanted Him to change my life. And from that moment on, after church, after that service ended, and from that moment on, it was weird. I just felt like a different person. I went home from church that day, and I had this, what I call my drawer of fun, that had all kinds of things that a decent man shouldn't have. At the time, I was kind of heavily into internet porn, and I think that's pornography that I could have my hands on, magazines and stuff. And also in the drawer, I was had become pretty much a heavy marijuana smoker. Alcohol, things like that. I had a lot of that stuff in this particular drawer in my bedroom. So I just, when I got home, it was weird. It was like in my mind, it's like my mind, like when you walk into a room and there's some stale garbage in there, it just smells stinky, it's really gross. It's like when I walked into my apartment, in my head, I had that same kind of sense of like, man, I knew I had this drawer of just this garbage that I didn't need to have in my life. And for some reason, I just went to that drawer, and I pulled the drawer out of my dresser and just went to my trash can and just started throwing all kinds of stuff away. And my roommate, at the time, he wasn't saved, but at the same time, he was kind of like my partner in crime and going out. And, he had been my best friend for a while, and he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "If you don't want that stuff, I'll take it." And I was like, "No, you don't need it." So I was just, continued to throw stuff away. And once I was done, once all that was in the trash, I just felt this heavy burden just lifted off of me. I just felt free. I felt a relief. And I told him about what happened, and told him how church went. And from that point on, my life was, noticeably different, at least to myself. A lot of the old things that I wanted to do or used to like doing, I didn't have a desire to do anymore. And I didn't even know what was going on at the time, but I just, later in my Christian walk, I realized that God at that time, through His grace and mercy, had it's also humbling because, maybe, God pretty much knew that at that time I couldn't survive in my Christian walk, unless He had immediately purged me of those desires and wants, and pretty much, God had to come in and clean house and to, help me start my Christian walk. And so, a lot of things, like I said, a lot of things were different in my life. My outlook on life was pretty different. My views on certain things were very different. I became aware of sin. I became aware of the sin in my life, and I had repented and realized that the way I've been living my life was wrong. It was offensive to God, and that I realized that I had needed a Savior. And even though, like I said, I had grown up going to church, and I had heard of Jesus, and I knew that was Jesus hanging on the cross in front of church, but it was weird to me that I realized that I never actually really understood why Christ